Welcome. Our minds are these incredible, complex things, but they don't always work the way we think they do. Deep down, they're actually following a kind of blueprint, a set of predictable and, honestly, often surprising rules. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and take a look at the hidden architecture of the human psyche.
I mean, think about it, right? You can get 10 amazing compliments and one tiny piece of criticism, and what's the one thing you're thinking about that night? The criticism. And look, if that sounds familiar, it's not you, it's not some personal failing. It's actually a built-in feature of your brain's operating system. And that's just one of the many quirks we are about to decode together.
And that right there is the core idea for today. From who you decide to trust, to what you buy, to why you argue, none of it is random. Your actions are guided by this complex, hidden blueprint of psychological rules. And once you start to understand this blueprint, you can start to understand yourself and everybody else so much better.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We've got our mental architecture split into 4 key areas. First, we'll look at our social blueprint. Then, we'll get into the irrational engine that really drives our choices. After that, we'll explore our emotional core. And finally, we'll uncover some of the weirdest and most fascinating of the mind's hidden rules.
First up, the social blueprint. Our brains are at their very core social organs. I mean, they are just hardwired to connect with other people. But here's the thing. Most of that wiring operates on a really complex autopilot that we're barely even aware of.
So, think about the last time you met someone new. Whether you realize it or not, your brain made a whole series of snap judgments about them in just a few seconds. And it's not about you being a judgmental person. It's a super old, powerful survival mechanism, a lightning-fast assessment of friend or foe that happens on a completely unconscious level.
Now, let's talk about a powerful mental shortcut called the halo effect. This is wild. It's where our brain takes just one positive trait, let's say physical attractiveness, and just unconsciously splashes it over someone's entire character. We might just assume they're also more intelligent, kinder, more trustworthy. It's an efficient shortcut for sure, but man, it can seriously skew our judgment.
And if you've ever wondered why being left out or ignored hurts so much, well, here's the science. Your brain literally processes the pain of social rejection in the exact same regions that light up when you feel physical pain. That feeling isn't just in your head, it's a real biological response that shows just how deeply our need to connect is tied to our very survival.
So, all these deep-seated social needs, they often end up fueling the next part of our mental blueprint, the irrational engine. We love to think of ourselves as these logical beings, right? Carefully weighing the pros and cons before we make a choice. But the reality? Oh, it is way, way messier than that.
This slide just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? We tell ourselves this story about being these rational, thoughtful decision makers. But the truth is, the vast, vast majority of our choices are driven by emotion first. Logic? Well, logic usually comes in later, but often just to justify the decision our feelings already made for us.
And our brains have developed these fascinating self-defense mechanisms to cope. Just look at these in action. We actively hunt for information that confirms what we already believe. That's called confirmation bias. We invent brilliant reasons why a bad choice was actually the right one, just to protect our ego. And get this, the fear of losing 20 bucks is way more powerful than the excitement of gaining 20 bucks. And of course, that instant reward, it almost always wins out over a much bigger prize way down the road. These aren't logical moves. They are pure psychological survival tactics.
And here is a total paradox for you. We think more options is a good thing, right? But psychologically, the opposite is usually true. When you're faced with, say, 30 different kinds of jam at the supermarket, you become paralyzed. And even if you do manage to choose one, you're way more likely to feel anxious that you picked the wrong one. It turns out, fewer choices often lead to a lot more satisfaction.
So if our decisions are all emotional, let's turn inward and take a look at that emotional core. This is the part of our blueprint that's governing our moods, our feelings, our entire sense of well-being. And you know what? It's surprisingly sensitive to some really simple things. This chart right here perfectly visualizes that question we started with. It's something called a negativity bias. Our brains are hardwired to pay way more attention to, and remember, negative experiences over positive ones. Now, evolutionarily, this was a huge advantage, right? Remembering the poisonous berry was way more important for survival than remembering a pretty flower. But today, it just means that insults stick to us like glue, while compliments just slide right off.
And look at these emotional levers you can actually pull. Not getting enough sleep? That directly dials up negative thinking.
but you can also trick your brain. Forcing a smile can actually make you feel a little bit happier. On the flip side, complaining a lot can literally rewire your brain to be more negative, and practicing gratitude, well, that's one of the most proven ways to boost your mental well-being.
This right here, this is a game changer for any relationship. The next time you find yourself in a really heated disagreement, just try to remember, you're almost never really arguing about the facts on the surface. You're arguing about the feelings underneath, about feeling disrespected or unheard or unappreciated. If you can address the emotion, you're suddenly so much closer to actually finding a resolution.
Okay, for our final section, let's get into some of the really strange background processes of our minds, the weird and wonderful quirks of our cognitive operating system. So here's a big one. You don't actually see the world as it is. You see the world as your brain presents it to you. It's constantly taking in all this patchy, incomplete data from your senses, and then it just automatically, seamlessly fills in the blanks to create a coherent story. This is also why we see faces in clouds or find patterns in random static. Our brain is a pattern-seeking machine, and it will find one even if there's nothing there.
Oh, you know this feeling. Ever notice how an unfinished project or an email you still need to send just nags at you? It just pops into your head over and over again? That is the Zeigarnik effect. Our brain keeps incomplete tasks in this state of high alert, constantly reminding us. But the second a task is done, poof, the brain happily just purges it from short-term memory to free up some space.
And this leads us to what might be the most mind-bending rule of them all. On a neurological level, your brain doesn't actually make a strong distinction between an event you are vividly imagining and one that is actually happening. This is why visualization can be so incredibly powerful for athletes, but it's also why worrying about something that hasn't even happened can create a very real, very physical stress response in your body.
So as we start to wrap this up, this one idea really ties everything together. Whether we're talking about our social connections, our emotional arguments, or our quirky decision-making, so much of our psychological wiring boils down to this one fundamental drive, the need to feel seen, to feel heard, and to feel understood by other people.
And this is the whole point. This is why knowing all this stuff actually matters. Understanding these hidden rules isn't just about fascinating trivia. When you know the blueprint of your own mind, when you know its biases, its shortcuts, its needs, you get to move from just being a passenger to being the architect. You gain the power to work with your brain instead of against it.
And really, that's the real takeaway. You've now had a peek behind the curtain at the hidden rules that govern so much of what we do and who we are. So the question I want to leave you with is, knowing what you know now, how are you going to play the game?